So did you know there are actually three versions of Quantum Leap's opening narration, or the saga cell, as they called it on the show? Well, three and a quarter, but we'll get into that. So the one that most fans are familiar with is what was the final version.
Theorizing that one could time travel within his own lifetime, Dr. Sam Beckett stepped into the Quantum Leap accelerator and vanished.
That's the version that you saw if you watch the show in reruns growing up, or if you go watch the show on streaming now. But when the show originally aired on NBC, that opening started with the third season, and they kept it through the end of the series. And they changed out the clips every season, but it was the same opening narration. But for the first season and a half on NBC, there was an opening narration that you won't see now unless you have the DVDs or the Blu-rays or the VHS tapes from way back in the 90s. And that narration was provided by none other than our man, Scott Bakula.
It all started when a time travel experiment I was conducting went a little caca. In the blink of a cosmic clock, I went from quantum physicist to Air Force test pilot, which could have been fun if I knew how to fly. Fortunately, I had help, an observer from the project named Al. Unfortunately, Al's a hologram, so all he can lend is moral support. Anyway, here I am, bouncing around in time, putting things right that once went wrong, a sort of time-traveling Lone Ranger with Al as my Tonto. And I don't even need a mask. Oh boy.
But then partway through season 2, they switched it to an opening narration that was longer, but closer to what we got in the final version. And for one episode, and one episode only, that opening narration was provided by Lance Legault, who you probably don't recognize that name, but he played Tess's dad in the season 1 episode of How the Tess Was Won.
Theorizing that one could time travel within his own lifetime, Dr. Sam Beckett led an elite group of scientists into the desert to develop a top-secret project known as Quantum Leap.
But for whatever reason, the producers decided that version didn't work, and so the very next week, he was replaced by the voice that we're all familiar with, Deborah Pratt, who was the series co-creator, executive producer, and she provided the voice of Ziggy.
Theorizing that one could time travel within his own lifetime, Dr. Sam Beckett led an elite group of scientists into the desert to develop a top-secret project known as Quantum Leap. Pressured to prove his theories or lose funding, Dr. Beckett prematurely stepped into the project accelerator and vanished. He awoke to find himself in the past, suffering from partial amnesia and facing a mirror image that was not his own. Fortunately, contact with his own time was maintained through brainwave transmissions with Al, the project observer, who appeared in the form of a hologram that only Dr. Beckett can see and hear. Trapped in the past, Dr. Beckett finds himself leaping from life to life, putting things right that once went wrong and hoping each time that his next leap will be the leap home.
So those are the 3 1/4 versions. Now, it's worth noting in the longer version of the narration, the whole bit about Sam leaping prematurely because funding was threatened, that was never explicitly said in any episode at all. In the series, it's never explicitly stated why Sam leaps when he does. But there were a series of novels in the 90s, one of which was Prelude, and it's non-canon, but this throws out an idea of why Sam leaped early. And I don't know, maybe one day I'll talk about the novels on here.